Hi guys, welcome back to Elephants in the Room. My name is Nicole and I'm your host. If you're new here, thank you so much for being here. If you are someone who has listened before, thank you so much for coming back. I want to talk today about something that I feel like I've been accepting and grieving and dealing with, and I don't really know how to articulate what I want to say, but I'm just going to try to say it. Obviously, I have some notes, but today's episode is going to be about being okay with disappointing others. Living authentically will make people uncomfortable, and how to kind of regulate through it. So, if you know anything about my story of origin, you guys know that I grew up in a really, really unhealthy environment. And I have an anxious attachment style. I have definitely struggled with people-pleasing tendencies and codependency, especially in my younger years before I started going to therapy. And, now I've been in therapy for, almost 7 years. And even though I feel like I have learned how to advocate for myself, to set boundaries, to communicate my needs, to remove myself from situations or relationships where I feel like I'm not being taken care of or respected, it's still hard. And I'm not perfect. And my natural and or regular response to conflict and to just anything is to solve, to fix, to extend, to bend, to compromise myself and what I need or what I want, to make others comfortable, to make others happy. So it's like, even though I have come so far in my journey, I feel like of healing from being a people pleaser or having people pleasing tendencies, or letting people walk all over me or whatever it is. Like, even though I feel like in a lot of ways I've healed from that and I've learned tools and skills on how to not operate like that in my life, because that's not good and it's never brought anything actually fruitful that's real. I've learned a lot about it, and I've learned how to set boundaries, and I've learned all these things. But it's still really hard, and I think one of the hardest parts of it is also the grief of being unaccepted. I think I still find myself, especially as I'm getting older, having a hard time accepting that people don't like me, and that the way that I choose to live my life and what I choose to do makes people not like me, not respect me. And I think what I have started to realize I have the most discomfort with is that sometimes me living authentically to who I am and trying to live with honesty and integrity and do the right thing, and also authentically to who I am, makes other people uncomfortable. It's like when I say it out loud, it's almost like I feel like I have accepted that people don't like me, and I've accepted that I'm not really respected by others. But because I feel like I've worked so much on my self-identity, my self-worth, my self-esteem, who I am, I don't have as much of a hard time with that. What I feel like I really have a hard time with, and what I'm starting to realize I have a hard time with, is that it makes people uncomfortable. Me living true to who I am makes people uncomfortable. And also me asking for my needs and my wants in situations or relationships makes people uncomfortable. And I don't know if I've gotten really comfortable with making people uncomfortable, because my natural response to people feeling uncomfortable is to appease, is to please, is to not make them uncomfortable. I, for most of my life, have allowed myself to feel uncomfortable in efforts to make other people feel comfortable. It's like all I want is for other people to feel comfortable, to the point where I don't prioritize myself feeling comfortable. And it's like this teeter-totter that just gets out of, it's like I think there's a perfect balance. I'm not one of those people who thinks that we should just live for ourselves and we should never consider other people's feelings and we should just cut people off when they hurt us. I don't believe that. I don't live that way. I don't believe that narrative and or idea of life is healthy. I think it only leaves us sad and empty. I think people are flawed. I think people make mistakes. I think we make mistakes. I think we have to have empathy for others, and we have to allow change and growth, and we have to allow failure, and we have to allow things. Like, I don't think we should just walk through life selfishly. It's not what I'm saying. But I have always erred on the opposite side, which is to ignore my own needs and my own comfort and my own life for others and for the comfort of others. And I think rewiring my brain and learning how to healthily do that has been really challenging for me. And even though I know how to set boundaries and I know that I'm worthy and I know what I deserve and I know all these things, it's one thing to have the knowledge. It's a whole nother thing to actually apply it to your life, because it's really hard. It's really hard. And so I want to talk about it today. So I think, like I said, I've just been grieving something. Not specific people, but the realization that not everyone likes me, and that me living authentically to me and or standing up for what I feel like I deserve or asking for what I need or whatever it may be, it makes people uncomfortable. Some people are uncomfortable with me. Some people see me as selfish. Some people have lost respect for me. And obviously, I'm like a broken record here, but that's tied so much to that I spent my whole life trying to hide from who I actually was, and I never wanted to make other people uncomfortable. And now I'm like an open divorced ex-Mormon who talks about everything that she goes through online. So in reality, I know people don't like me, but I think sometimes when you're in your own world, you just like don't really realize that's true. And I actually had a situation happen recently where a friend of a friend was talking about a different friend who, for her own reasons, doesn't necessarily like me because of the way I talk about the church online. And even though like I know that's happening, I kind of forget sometimes that like people actually really, really strongly dislike me and what I do. And the piece of me that grew up feeling like she had to please everyone other than herself is like, like it sucks. And also, like, I love humans. I love people. I don't want people to feel uncomfortable because of something that I do or a way that I live. I hate that. But it's like there's two options before us in this life, I feel like. And especially as you get older and you start to learn who you are and what you believe in, it's like you have to pick, like, letting other people down and the discomfort of knowing that you're making people uncomfortable, or the inauthenticity and a lack of truth in morphing who you are to be something that never offends or makes other people uncomfortable. And it's like, what do you choose? And it's hard. And how do you navigate it? And it's hard. And I think I just am grieving universal acceptance and love and respect, because I never thought I'd be in a position where I didn't have that. And now I am. And I'm like, oh, I'm not everyone's cup of tea. And that's okay. But I think it's okay for me to also be a little bit sad about that, because it is hard. And I'd be lying to you guys if I was just like, oh, I don't care what people think of me. I don't care that I'm letting people down. I don't care. And it's like, no, it's uncomfortable for me. It's hard for me to accept, but I'm doing it anyways because I believe it's the right thing. And the older I get especially, am reminded of the importance of the fact that this is my life. Me. Like, you can't live your life to fit in and to please other people. You get one life. And the older I get and the more time passes me by, I'm like, I need to care more about what I want to care about. And that doesn't mean I don't care about people. And that doesn't mean I shouldn't accommodate and love people and do everything in my power to make them comfortable. I should, because that's my character. I love to love people. I'm a lover. But to what extent? And there is such a difference between doing something to someone else and that makes them uncomfortable versus doing something in your life for you and it makes someone uncomfortable. So it is just something I think I am feeling the weight of in my life. And I want to talk about what is happening in your nervous system and or my nervous system when we start, setting boundaries and making other people uncomfortable in efforts to take care of ourselves and living authentically and all these different things. I want to talk a little bit about what's happening in our nervous system. So when someone feels disappointed, when I set a boundary, when I feel tension, my stomach drops. I feel nauseous. My throat closes. I don't know if you guys have ever felt the yarn throat. My throat closes. And my natural tendency is I want to fix it immediately. So to talk a little bit about the nervous system in that moment is we move between a regulated state, safe, connected, grounded, and a threatened state, which is the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And I think I have identified more and more as I get older that my response typically is to fawn, which is not good. And I want to talk about the fawn response. Let me look it up really fast. So the fawn response is a trauma-based survival mechanism where an individual appeases, pleases, or submits to a threat to avoid conflict, abuse, or rejection. Wow. I'm just going to read that one more time for the people who I know need to hear it because I needed to hear this today. The fawn response is a trauma-based survival mechanism where an individual appeases, pleases, or submits to a threat to avoid conflict or rejection. Raise your hand if you have fawned in a relationship or a situation or whatever it may be because you were scared of rejection, conflict, or the discomfort of someone else being uncomfortable. And you care more about someone being comfortable than you care about being comfortable yourself. And you care more about making someone else happy than you care about making yourself happy. And you care more about fulfilling someone else's need than you care about fulfilling your own need. Raise your hand. Me. Been there. And we do it to avoid conflict, avoid abuse, and avoid rejection. So, back into what I was saying. The fawn response. When someone is disappointed in you, your brain interprets it as loss of belonging. And when we don't feel like we belong, our nervous system equates that to danger. Social rejection activates the same brain region as physical pain. So your body reacts like this is unsafe, repair immediately. This was something that was definitely interesting to learn about social rejection and how it literally activates the same brain regions as physical pain because we're made and meant for belonging. So when we feel that we don't belong, our nervous system sees it as a threat. And so naturally, we will then want to, at least for me, go into that fawn response to then gain that connection back because we don't want to lose that connection. So a little bit more on the fawn response. So there's fight, which is attack, flight, escape, freeze, shut down, and fawn, appease to stay safe. If they're uncomfortable, fix it or you'll lose connection. That's what your brain tells yourself, okay? And your nausea, okay, I want to say this because this was crazy. That sick feeling that you have in your stomach when you start to feel tension in a relationship or a situation, and you start to feel and see that that person's not pleased with you, and you start to feel and see that it's uncomfortable. Whether it's because you set a boundary, because you communicated your needs, because you were honest with them, or because maybe you didn't appease them the way that they are used to you appeasing them, and you start to feel that pit in your stomach of the discomfort of the relationship, that is normal. It is normal, and it's your body and it's your body and your nervous system being scared of losing connection. And when we lose connection with someone, we then feel like we don't belong. And when we feel like we don't belong, our nervous system actually flags it as danger because we are made for belonging. So just because you get that feeling in your stomach doesn't mean that what you're doing is wrong. It doesn't mean that your body is disagreeing with you actually standing up for yourself or communicating your needs or being honest. It just means that your nervous system is triggered. And also what I've realized is that as hard as that is, and as hard as those moments are when we do that and we create discomfort in relationships, it only leads to either full disconnection because that person doesn't actually want to meet you where you're at, or it actually leads to so much more connection. And so it's like, it is scary in those moments to do that. But if I knew what I know now back then, it's that when I actually do communicate what I need or communicate how I'm feeling, even when I'm scared of how someone will respond or how someone will take it, or if it will make someone uncomfortable, it actually always has led to a deeper and more honest and stronger relationship with whoever it is that I'm communicating with. And in the moment, it's really uncomfortable, but it actually leads to more connection long term versus never sharing how you feel and never being honest only ever leads you to discomfort and leads you to this anxiety because you almost turn into like a rock. You build up these walls, so much anger, so much bitter, so much resentment, and you can't actually like really, really be in the relationship or the situation unless you're honest. And so it sucks in the moment, but it's for the best of both people. So yeah, I think I'm just realizing with this discomfort that I feel like I've been having around communicating and being honest with people, it's that discomfort isn't bad. Like it's my nervous system, and it's me overriding an old pattern that I've created of this fawn response. And like I said, I didn't realize how much I did the fawn response until I started researching more about this and talking to some of my therapists recently about kind of like when conflict arises and how, like, again, I have the knowledge now of how to set boundaries, but I feel like I still, like my old patterning, it still convinces me to like avoid and not like go into that discomfort when like I'm learning I have to like let my body get there, and it's like not a negative thing. And I always feel better after, but in the moment, it like makes me really uncomfortable and really anxious, and it makes me sick to my stomach. It makes me like really sick to my stomach. I think, yeah, I think for anyone who feels like they have had a hard time communicating their needs and being honest and knowing that it may make the other person uncomfortable and or upset the other person, there's an anxiety and there's literally a nervous system response where our nervous system starts to shut down. We feel sick to our stomach. We feel that yarn throat. We feel like we can't talk. We feel like we can't speak because we're really scared to lose connection with that person, to be abandoned, to be misunderstood. And we're really scared of the discomfort that it creates. And for a lot of us, we were so conditioned to please other people and to appease other people. And we naturally fall into that fawn response, which is just to appease when there's conflict, to avoid rejection or abandonment or abuse or mistreatment or whatever it is. And so we rather just like fix it and ignore it than deal with it. And what I feel like I'm learning is you have to allow yourself to get past that discomfort in those situations. And when you do, either your relationship will be better off for it when you communicate those things, or you will see that that friend or that romantic partner or whoever it is that you're talking to doesn't actually maybe know how to love, respect, and value you the way that you value them. And there's nothing wrong with misunderstanding people. It's not bad when people misunderstand us, but when you are genuinely trying to communicate something you need or being honest about something or telling someone no, if they take it poorly initially, that's okay. But anyone who I feel like really deeply does care about you the way that you care about them will understand and try to understand and try to respond in the best way they can. And so it's like, I think it's like there's almost nothing to lose is what I think I've realized. It's like if you're so in fear of communicating your feelings to someone because you're scared you're going to lose them, if you're actually honest with them, you don't actually have anything to lose, because that's not a situation or a relationship you would want to be in anyways. There's no way to have a long-term relationship, friendship, situation with anyone who isn't willing to hear your heart and to allow you to be honest and to allow you to ask for your needs, even if that makes them a bit uncomfortable, even if you have to say no to them, even if maybe they're asking you for something and you have to say no, like whatever it is, it's like if they're not willing, it's like you don't actually lose anything because you don't want to be in those types of relationships anyway. So it's sad that I feel like we've been conditioned to be in a place where we never quote unquote test our relationships in the way that we never allow them to go through conflict. We just avoid the conflict. We fawn, we appease, we please, to just always avoid conflict in relationships. But what if we like reposition to be like, wait, conflict isn't bad. Conflict is normal. Disagreements are normal. Like it's okay to say no to someone if they asked you for something and still remain friends. It's okay to say, I feel this way. And yes, it may hurt that person. It may make that person uncomfortable, but it's like, we will never grow in our relationships and have long-lasting relationships where both people feel regulated and calm, and where both people feel seen, and where both people feel like good, if we never deal with conflict. And this happens in our everyday life. This happens with friends. This happens with acquaintances. This happens at work. This happens with our partners. This happens with our family. It's like, when did we get to a place? From what conditioning did we get to that place where we just believe we always have to avoid conflict, and we always have to avoid making other people uncomfortable, and we always have to avoid letting other people down? Like the amount of times that someone has asked me for something and I know I want to say no, but I don't let myself say no. And then I end up resenting the situation or the person later because I didn't just say no, which is also unfair. I should have just said no. I should have just said, no, this is why. And if I'm so in fear that me saying no would make that person lose connection with me, do I really want that person in my life? And again, I'm not saying this to say we just need to say no to everything. And if you don't want to do something, don't do it. And if something inconveniences you, don't do it. Like, no. I do things all the time for people and around people that inconvenience me, because that's part of being a good friend. That's part of being a good partner. That's part of being a good coworker. That's part of being a good family member. Like, it's okay to be inconvenienced by other people. It's okay. That's loving. That shows fruits of our character. But on the other end, it's also okay to inconvenience others by setting a boundary or saying no in a certain situation. So it's like it goes both ways, and every situation is so unique and different. But it's like, I think I am like, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to disappoint people. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. Not that I want to do it every day. I want to make people happy. I love making people happy, but it's like, when it makes sense, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to say no. I think, again, this ties into a fear I have around this, which is when I feel like someone asks me for something and I want to say no, but I'm like, oh, I don't know. Should I? What should I do? What should I do? I have a fear of, like, they'll see me as selfish. And I think I am, and I've accepted the fact that I am uncomfortable with people thinking I'm selfish, because people can think I'm a lot of things. I don't care if people don't like me. I care, but I don't. Like, I've accepted that. But I really pride myself in being a kind person, and I want to be a loving person who gives. And I feel like that's part of my faith. So sometimes my fear in these situations is that I don't want people to think I'm selfish. And I'm not selfish. I'm not, and I know that. And so it's like, why do I never allow myself to choose myself sometimes first? Because there is a place and a time to choose others first and to inconvenience yourself. But there's also a time to say no. And like, I feel like every time I'm with my therapist, she's like saying this to me, and I'm like, oh, you're right. But like, I'll just make it work. And it's like, I love that about myself, but it's also something that I feel like hurts me the most at the same time. So, I think this is very, present, especially if you were raised in systems that emphasize self-sacrifice, obedience, harmony, and being quote unquote good. Cultural conditioning shaped by environments like the LDS church that I grew up in tie worth to self-denial. And when you prioritize yourself, your nervous system interprets it as moral failure. But self-abandonment is not a virtue, or is not virtue. Wow. Yeah, I feel this so much. I think, again, our belief system and like our faith ties so much into how we operate and how we live. And I think that has been one of the coolest things and hardest things about transitioning my faith from Mormonism / LDS to Christianity, where I've seen that like life isn't about pleasing others and always being seen as good. Like, if your heart posture is not correct, it doesn't even matter because you're not doing it with the right motive. And so it's like learning how to do things for the right motive while also understanding that to take care of others, I also have to take care of myself. And a lot of what I feel like a lot of religious systems label as Christ-like or selfless is actually self-abandonment and self-denial. And I spent so many of my younger years denying myself all the time. And I'm not talking about my needs. Like, obviously the Bible calls us to deny ourselves and have self-control. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about denying like my heart, my spirit, my body, and not giving myself the same respect and care that I give to others. And I believe that God wants us to treat others the way we treat ourselves. I mean, it says that in the Bible, one of my favorite verses. So if we treat ourselves with no respect, no care, no patience, no time, and all we do is just give to others and sacrifice for others, then that verse doesn't hold up. It's like we're called to love people the way we love ourselves. And so it's like we have to also love ourselves first and take care of ourselves first. And I feel like the more we take care of our needs and learn how to say no when we need to, it actually gives us more bandwidth to love people and to serve people. Because I think a life without serving is sad. I love serving people, but if I don't also take care of myself first, I'm not going to be serving out of a full place, out of a good place, and necessarily with the right heart posture or attitude. So let's talk a little bit about anxious attachment, because I have an anxious attachment, and I think a lot of this ties to that. Underneath, quote, selfish is something deeper. I think for sure I naturally, especially my nervous system in that fawn response, when I start to feel discomfort in a relationship, fears rejection and abandonment and disconnection. What if this person doesn't want to be friends with me anymore? What if this person doesn't want to, whatever? I think that is a fear that my nervous system is so familiar with, even if my brain knows different, even if I know now that someone abandoning me or rejecting me isn't a reflection of myself, my nervous system, I think I've just noticed, can get caught up in that anxious attachment style. And sometimes when that happens for me, I start to over-explain, I reassure, I apologize too much, I try to smooth everything, because somewhere along my path, I learned connection must be preserved at all cost. But secure attachment, which is what we all want to have, by the way, you either have anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, disorganized attachment, or you have secure attachment. And secure attachment is something we all want to work towards in our lives. And secure attachment says connection can survive discomfort. Tension does not equal abandonment. I don't have to shrink to stay loved. And you are not becoming someone who doesn't care. You are becoming someone who can stay grounded through discomfort. And that is emotional maturity. So let's just talk about this for a second. True connection can survive discomfort, and tension does not equal abandonment. And even though I think our nervous system, especially for those who struggle with anxious attachment style, can feel that way, that's not true. And I also think I have struggled with this concept of but I care. And so when I feel like I need to set a boundary or need to say no to something, I'm kind of threatened with this, but I care, but I want to care. And it's like, I can care and at the same time acknowledge that it's okay to say no sometimes. That's okay. And like I said, I have gotten so much better about setting boundaries with people and communicating my needs. But I for sure apologize too much, and I for sure over-explain myself, and I for sure reassure. I'm not someone who can just be like, this is my boundary, point blank, period. I will set a boundary and then send a 6-paragraph text explaining why. And that's just something I have not been able to get over the hump yet, because my heart is that I want to be understood and I want people to understand me. Or I want to be understood and I want I want the other person to feel understood. And I never want people to take it personal. And I know boundaries aren't personal, but it's it's just so hard. It's just so hard. And so if you find yourself feeling like you need to over-explain yourself, that you need to reassure and apologize about setting a boundary or communicating what you need to someone. I understand. And it's hard. But I think moving towards secure attachment is just trying to learn how to not feel the need to over-explain yourself all the time. Authenticity disrupts systems. When you do anything that contradicts and or goes against your story of origin, typically the system feels threatened. So whatever it is that you grew up in, whether it's a religion or a way of life or the, healthiness of your family, when you start doing things different, it threatens that system, and it usually causes people around you to withdraw, criticize, to feel uncomfortable, to say you've changed, to see you as selfish. But discomfort in others does not equal wrongdoing in you. Okay, let's just take a minute and really, I really want to tell you guys this because I'm telling myself this. Discomfort in others does not mean wrongdoing by you. Just because what you're doing and the needs you've communicated or the honesty that you've shared or the way that you choose to live your life or whatever it is, just because it makes people around you uncomfortable does not mean that you're in the wrong. And even though, or not that it doesn't mean you're in the wrong, it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. It doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. Let me say that again. If you start to feel that other people around you are uncomfortable because of the way that you choose to live, because you communicated your needs, because you were honest with them, because you set a boundary with them, because you choose to live your life a certain way, just because it makes other people or even the closest people around you uncomfortable does not mean that you're doing something wrong. And even though that discomfort in those relationships and the discomfort you feel from others is painful and uncomfortable, that doesn't mean you need to change what you're doing. And also, you need to accept that people's discomfort sometimes is not your responsibility. It's not to say that you shouldn't consider the people around you. It's not to say that you shouldn't be open and give people empathy and grace. But at the end of the day, we have to get comfortable with allowing people around us to be uncomfortable because we're choosing to do what we believe is right. And we're choosing to ask for what we need. And we're choosing to set a boundary to protect the relationship. Because that's the root of it. Whenever we are communicating our needs in a relationship or a situation, or whenever we are asking for something or we're setting a boundary, it's because we care and value the relationship. We value the relationship. We value the situation. We want to keep it, but we know we can't stay in it the way that it is. And we know that we need change within it to feel comfortable within it on both ends. And we know that for us, we have to be honest. And so it's like, we can't feel bad for that. That's okay. That's okay. And that's hard. That's hard to accept. That is very hard to accept. So to lean into that, let's talk about discomfort versus harm. There's a very important distinction that we need to make. Discomfort does not equal harm. When you're communicating something you need, or when you're setting a boundary, or when you're being honest with someone, you just need to ask yourself, was I calm? Was I honest? Was I respectful? And if yes, their discomfort belongs to them. You are not responsible for your integrity, not for regulating everyone's nervous systems. It's not to say we should not consider people. We should. But we also shouldn't take on the responsibility of other people's emotions all the time. It's not our responsibility. That doesn't mean we shouldn't consider. That doesn't mean we shouldn't love. That doesn't mean we shouldn't encourage. But it's like, I think getting out of that taking on, if that makes sense. So all of this to say, yeah, I think, like I said, I've just noticed in my body and my mind how uncomfortable it is to actually follow through on my boundaries, to set boundaries, to communicate my needs, to ask for changes, to disagree with someone, to say no to something I want to say no to. It's hard. And even though I know the knowledge about the importance of boundaries and why I need to set them and why I need to say no sometimes and why I need to be honest with people and why I need to not over-explain myself and why I need to not fawn when my nervous system feels the threat of disconnection with someone, or I feel maybe judged by someone, or I feel like someone may think I'm selfish. Like, just because I have the knowledge to do that doesn't mean it's easy for me to actually do it. And if you're watching this and you're someone that is really trying to be healthier because you've realized that, maybe you fall on the side of codependency or people pleasing or appeasing or fawning or whatever it may be, and you're trying to have a healthier life and healthier relationships, I just want you to know that you're not alone, and it is so hard, and there is a grief that comes with actually living authentically. When you choose to live authentically and be honest about who you are and be honest about your needs and actually ask for the things that you want and actually set boundaries and actually not tolerate disrespect or mistreatment, it's so uncomfortable. And it causes discomfort in relationships, which then threatens your connection in the relationship, which then makes us, or at least me, want to fawn and to appease to avoid rejection and to avoid conflict. But my whole point of all of this is that we need to lean into conflict sometimes, and we need to lean into the discomfort of that, because on the other end is a deeper connection with ourselves and with others. We're able to connect with ourselves because we're not self-abandoning, and we're able to connect with others because we're able to move through the conflict, which then helps you understand each other better and readjust and reposition. Like, it's good. And so if you're feeling that discomfort, if you feel like you've started to learn how to stand up for yourself and communicate your needs and all these things and communicate your heart, and you start to feel that discomfort, I just want you to know it's okay. And me in my own life, I really, just as much as this episode is for you guys, it's also for me, because these are things I need to walk through and talk about, because they're really hard. And there's a lot of ways in my life right now that I feel like I am not following through on my boundaries, and I'm self-abandoning and I'm compromising. And I think that's a part of life, and I think that's a part of what we have to do. Sometimes we do need to bend to please others and to extend ourselves to others and to serve others in all of the things. There's a time and a place for that, and I love doing that, but I think I'm just reminding myself that it's okay to have that discomfort, and it doesn't mean that I'm selfish, and it doesn't mean that it's going to lead to rejection or to prolonged conflict. It usually will lead to resolution and a deeper understanding and a mutual respect and love. And this applies to everything in your life, your workspace, your friendships, your family, your romantic partners, everything. And I think I just have had a hard time with all of this, because I think I'm feeling a lot of grief around accepting that I'm not liked, and accepting that people may think this about me, and accepting and dealing with the discomfort in relationships and situations, because it's so easy for me to want to just appease and to just ignore conflict and ignore contention and to avoid it, because I just want to keep the peace. I want to keep the peace, and I want to feel good, and I don't want to deal with conflict. But I'm just reminded of how important it is to actually deal with conflict, because it leads to so much better in things. You guys so much, and I say this all to just try to encourage you guys, but I just have some things to hopefully encourage you with. Number 1, you are not selfish for growing. You are not cruel for being honest. You are not abandoning people by setting boundaries. The nausea you feel, the urge to fix it, the panic that says repair this immediately, that's your nervous system learning something new. You are teaching your body. Connection can survive honesty. You are teaching yourself, I don't have to abandon myself to be loved. Yes, some people will be uncomfortable with your growth, and yes, some people will misunderstand you. Yes, some will prefer the old version of you, but the right relationships, the secure ones, the mature ones, the aligned ones will stay. Not because you kept them comfortable, but because you stayed authentic. And that is the kind of connection worth building. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and I hope that you heard something that helps you. And I just want you to know it's so much harder to do things than, like, having knowledge of something is one thing, doing it is another thing. And I am so far from perfect, and it is so much harder to practice what you preach. But like I said, these episodes are just as much for you guys as they are for me. And I'm in this with you guys because I just want to live a healthy, happy life and do the right thing. That's literally all I want. It's literally all I want. And I'm just figuring out how the heck to do that after super severe childhood trauma and a lot of other things. Like, I've had a crazy life. So yeah, I love you guys so much. If you guys want to support me, you guys can follow this podcast on all of the places: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Subscribe. You can go and give it a rating and review on Spotify or Apple. That helps me so much. If all my listeners, okay, I like never ask for anything, but I'm gonna ask for something, okay? Because that's the theme of this episode. If everyone listening to this can go and give me stars. You don't have to give me 5 stars. I mean, if you want to, you can. You can give me 4 stars, whatever you think. But please go rate and review this podcast on Spotify and Apple, because the amount of people that listen to this podcast every week versus the amount of reviews, if everyone who's listening to this podcast went and reviewed my podcast, it would help so much. And it would mean the world to me. So if you guys can go and review it, you don't have to leave a comment. Just leave 5 stars if you can, or 4 if you feel like it's a 4-star podcast. And that helps me so much. So I love you guys so much. Without further ado, I will ask, what elephants are in your room? My name is Nicole, and I will talk to you guys in 2 weeks. I'm going to go make a banana matcha. You guys will see it on TikTok probably a couple weeks before this episode comes out. So if you remember the video of me making the banana matcha, just know it was right after I filmed this podcast. Okay, love you. Bye.